Let's go back to when you were a kid. You're sitting in school, and at some point, maybe 4th grade, maybe 5th, a teacher hands you a worksheet. It's got pictures of things you can be when you grow up. Doctor, lawyer, engineer, teacher. Notice what's not on that worksheet. Investor, business owner, landlord, asset holder. Nobody showed you how money actually works. Nobody explained compound interest. Nobody told you what a stock was. Nobody explained the difference between an asset and a liability. You spent 13 years in school learning how to be an employee. Not once, not a single class on how to build wealth. And that wasn't an accident. Think about who designed the American public school system. In the early 1900s, the biggest industrialists in America, people like Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller, they literally funded the restructuring of public education. Why would the richest men in America care about your school? Because they needed workers. Reliable, trainable, punctual workers who would show up, follow instructions, and not ask too many questions. So they built a system that trained you to do exactly that. Wake up at a fixed time, sit in rows, raise your hand to speak, follow the schedule, get graded on compliance. Sound familiar? That's not education. That's factory training. And you went through it for 13 years and never even noticed. But okay, you survived school, you got a job, you're making money now, so the trap is over, right? No. This is actually where it gets worse. The moment you got your first paycheck, the system took its cut before you saw a single dollar. You didn't choose that. It was already arranged. Then you took what was left and you spent it on rent, on a car payment, on groceries, on subscriptions, on things that made you feel okay about your week. And that spending, every single dollar of it, went to people who already had money. Your rent made your landlord richer. Your car payment made a bank richer. Your groceries made a corporation richer. You worked 40 hours, and your money immediately flowed upward to people who didn't work at all that week. That's not a coincidence. That's the design. Here's the concept nobody taught you in school. Rich people buy assets. Poor people buy expenses. An asset puts money into your pocket. An expense takes money out of your pocket. Your landlord's apartment building, asset. It pays him every month whether he wakes up or not. Your rent payment, expense. It leaves your pocket every month and builds his wealth, not yours. Your car, expense. It loses value every year and costs you insurance, maintenance, and loan interest on top. His car, if he bought it through his business, is a tax deduction. Same car, completely different financial reality because he knows rules you were never taught. And here's the part that should genuinely make you angry. Those rules aren't secret. They're in the tax code, available to anyone. But they're written in language so complicated, intentionally complicated, that you need an accountant to understand them. And accountants cost money, which means the rules that help you pay less tax and keep more money, right, are only practically accessible to people who already have money. Everyone else just pays full price, every year. Now let's talk about something you do every single day without thinking about it. You open Instagram, you open TikTok, you open YouTube, and within 30 seconds, you see someone with a lifestyle you don't have, a car you can't afford, a vacation you've never taken, a body you don't have, a house that doesn't look like yours, and somewhere in your brain, quietly, without your permission, a feeling shows up. I'm falling behind. And what do you do with that feeling? You spend money, new shoes, new phone, a nicer apartment you can't quite afford, but it feels better than the one that made you feel poor. This isn't weakness. This is neuroscience. The platforms you use every day were designed by behavioral psychologists specifically to trigger that feeling of inadequacy, because inadequacy drives spending, and the brands pay the platforms to put that content in front of you. So the app is free, but what it costs you, slowly, invisibly, is your financial future. There's a term for this: lifestyle inflation. Every time you make a little more money, your spending rises to match it. Raise at work, nicer car, bonus, better apartment, side income, more subscriptions, more eating out, more stuff. You never actually get ahead. You just upgrade the hamster wheel, and the economy depends on you doing this. If Americans suddenly stopped buying things they didn't need, entire industries would collapse overnight. Your impulsive spending isn't a personal flaw. It is the economic engine of this country. They need you to keep spending. They need you to stay at zero. So let me ask you something honest. How much money do you have right now, sitting in assets that will be worth more next year than they are today? Not your salary, not your savings account, earning 0.01% interest while inflation runs at 3%. Actual assets, things that grow, things that pay you. For most Americans, the honest answer is nothing, or close to it. And that's after decades of working. Here's the number that broke me when I first saw it. The top 1% of Americans own more wealth than the entire bottom 90% combined. Let that sit for a second. 90% of the country combined. Less than 1%. And that gap, it's not getting smaller. Since 1989, the share of wealth held by the bottom 50% of Americans has actually decreased. Meaning the system isn't just failing to fix the problem, it's making it worse, on purpose. So here's what I want to leave you with. The trap isn't a conspiracy with shadowy figures in a dark room. It's simpler and more boring than that. It's a school system that trained you to be an employee. It's a tax code written for people who already have assets. It's an attention economy designed to make you feel poor, so you keep spending. It's a culture that taught you that buying things is a personality. None of it required anyone to sit in a dark room and plan your specific failure. It just required building a system and then letting it run. And it has been running your whole life. The question now, the only question that actually matters, is what are you going to do now that you can see it?